Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Jeff at lockdownsecurity.ca, www.lockdownsecurity.ca. Coming to you today on Tuesday, September 30th, 2025. Now, we haven't uploaded a video in a while. We've been quite busy with a lot of changes to our website and the switch over to the remote start season. But that's exactly what this video is about today. It's in regards to a commonly requested feature or feature set for your remote starter, especially in the winter season. And what is that feature? That feature would be control of heated seats or cooled seats or rear defroster or mirror defroster, basically heated and cooled accessories. Now, this particular video is going to be relatively specific to connecting those accessories or control of those accessories utilizing an iDatastart or Compustar branded system. But you could apply the concepts in this video to essentially any remote start system out there. Obviously, the specific details of how that remote starter controls or whether that remote starter can control your heated or cooled accessories will vary from brand to brand to brand. But again, the overall concepts are going to be relatively similar. So I'm going to expand upon this screen here, which is essentially the iDatalink.com website. And you'll notice here I've got a 2020 Mazda CX-9 push-to-start automatic vehicle pulled up on the vehicle selector. The reason I have this vehicle, I have a customer who we've been going back and forth with regarding heated accessories, and he asked me to make a video. So this is for you. This video is being made specifically because of the questions that you were asking and that you prompted me to make a video. So here I am. So the first thing I want to talk about is whether or not your iDatastart remote starter controls the heated or cooled accessories by default. So let me show you two things. I've got this 2020 Mazda CX-9 pulled up here, and then in the next window, I've got a 2022 Audi Q3 push to start automatic pulled up, and I'll explain why in one moment. So if I scroll down on the iDatastart features menu, I'm not going to read every single one, but what is missing here is any mention of heated or cooled accessories. They are not listed here. And the reason for that is that via data, so via CAN bus or LIN bus data, this particular remote start and this particular firmware has no control over the heated or cooled accessories. If I compare that now to a 2022 Audi Q3, I pulled up the Audi not because it's special, but because I know it's very highly integrated with CAN bus data technology. So I know that the iDatastart remote start will control those heated and cooled accessories. And you can see down here that iData has a chart listing for comfort, and they've got rear defrost activation, heated seat activation, cooled seat activation, and it is checked off. What does that mean? That means that these features will be controlled via this firmware, and that no additional wiring will have to be made to use these features. Now, with that being said, there are parameters that you can change, which I'll go over later in this video, to change how these features are activated. But the actual act of connecting these features is covered via CAN bus firmware on the Audi Q3. Now that again will vary from vehicle to vehicle, so you have to check this, but you'll see when it's not supported, it's not shown. There are other areas that you can find this. So for example, if I click the Mazda firmware button here, it'll take me over to the features coverage section. You will see again, there is no mention of heated or cooled seats here. If I do the same thing for the Audi, you'll see the comfort features are listed. So it's another area that you can check. Let's now download the install guide for both. And you can see on the Mazda, so this is the Mazda CX-9 install guide. Under comfort, nothing is checked off as being supported. So again, what does that mean? That means that those features are not supported or not activated via the firmware. Meaning, if you wanted to connect these features, you possibly still could. Now, I say possibly because that possibility is going to be limited or enabled by the actual schematics of the vehicle, which I will get to in a moment on this Mazda. But when it shows as not supported here, it means that while It's not supported via firmware. It may be supported via hardwiring these features. And that's where it gets a little bit more complicated and not so applicable to the do-it-yourself installer. It's not impossible to do, unless it's impossible from a technical perspective of the vehicle, but it means that there is actual labor involved in connecting these. Versus if we look at the Audi, you'll see here, comfort features again are checked off. It looks like via CAN bus, via data, it will control the rear defrost. It will control the heated seat, the cooled seat. It will not control the heated mirror, and it will not control the heated steering wheel. So again, this is essentially the same thing. You will control the features that are checked off via data and can control the parameters of that via the programming of the remote start. The ones that are not checked off, they may still be able to be connected, but they will require extra labor to do so and may require either relays, may require resistors, or a combination of both, as well as programming that will need to happen. Now, that's where I'm going to get into now. Let's go through the Audi install guide and take a look at whether or not they make mention of any programming. So let's take a look here. No. So any programming or feature adjustments that need to be made in terms of how the heated accessory and cooled accessories are activated would have to be done when you're actually programming the module via the ADS USB and the WebLink updater software. That's where you're going to find the controls and the settings for how the rear defrost and heated and cooled seats are activated. What do I mean by that? Well, what temperature do they get activated? How often are they activated? How long are they activated? Those are the parameters that you have to set in the programming. Versus the Mazda, when you look at it, there's nothing checked off. So there's going to be nothing at all in the wiring diagram about how to connect these accessories. That's another note too. If you need to hardwire these accessories, you're not going to find that data being provided by the remote starter manufacturers. That is where you're going to need to do some digging, or you're going to need to have vehicle wiring software like we do as professionals in order to tell you what circuits to go to and in order to tell you whether or not it's even possible. So let's move on to that. Again, let's start with the Mazda, the 2020 Mazda CX-9. Is it possible to hook up heated or cooled accessories on this vehicle? So I have got a direct text wiring diagram pulled up. I'm just going to zoom in on this a little bit so we can see. Now, DirectText is an industry-specific vehicle wiring software database. We have access to it as directed dealers. This is not publicly accessible data. You would have to be a professional installer to have this info. Not only a professional installer, but a directed electronics dealer. This is where I go to first and foremost to find whether or not we can do heated or cooled accessories. You could also find this data potentially publicly listed via Google, but it's going to be harder. It's going to take more work for you to search. You could also find this in the mechanic softwares like AllData or Mitchell On Demand, those types of softwares. But if we look at direct text on this Mazda, we can see mirror defroster is controlled on the same circuit as the rear defroster, and the wiper de-icer is the same thing. So what does that mean? That means that when the rear defroster is on, it also turns on the mirror and the wiper de-icer. Looks like rear defrost is a white/red wire. It is positive polarity. It's a latched output, and it's in the driver kick harness to rear. I'll come back to this shortly. If we look at heated seats, left front, right front, it says serial data. So what does that mean? That means that you really cannot control these heated seats. You could potentially go directly to the heated seat element, but that is risky because then you'd be bypassing all of the controls like the thermostats and all of that. So I would tell anybody with this vehicle, including our client with the actual 2020 Mazda CX-9, that according to this, it is not possible, even from a hardwire perspective, to hook up the heated seats. If we look at the heated steering wheel, it's a red wire. It is positive polarity, and it is at the heated steering wheel switch, black 10-pin plug, pin 5. Now, these are all references. So if you had this information as an installer, you'd have to go to this circuit and actually test with a multimeter, a digital multimeter, to see, are you getting positive voltage when you activate the heated steering wheel, and does it go away when you turn it off? Same thing with the rear defroster. And then when you see this where it says latch, that means that rear defrost circuit, in order to turn the rear defroster on, must be latched. It must be turned on and left on. What does that mean? That means that it would be on for the entire duration of however long you want the rear defrost to stay on. There is another configuration for this, which is called momentary. Momentary is basically usually on the control circuit, which means that in order to turn the rear defrost on, it needs a momentary signal that turns on and then goes off. That's why it's called momentary. And then in order to turn the rear defrost off, it needs to see that same momentary signal. That is not the case for this Mazda CX-9. In this case, this vehicle needs to see a latch signal. Being that it's positive, this tells me that you are driving the rear defrost circuit directly. So you have to be cognizant that rear defrost circuits have timers built into them from factory. And in 99% of the cases of vehicles that we see, they put a timer in there so that you don't burn out the rear defrost element by leaving it on too long, thereby making it get too hot. So you have to be cognizant that if you are driving the rear defrost element directly, two things. One, the current load, you're going to have to be cognizant of and aware that it's going to draw quite a bit of current. So your wiring is going to need to support that. And two, you're going to want to have some form of timer circuit so that you're not leaving it on for the full duration of your remote start cycle. So for example, most defrost circuits, if you watch, they generally will turn on for a maximum of about 10 minutes and then they shut off automatically. So if your remote starter has the capability of a timed output, you're going to want to have a timer of, say, maximum 10 minutes to keep that latched output on. Generally, rear defrosts only need about 5 to 8 minutes to de-ice the window. Obviously, when it's just snow, if it's really thick ice, you may need longer. But again, we don't recommend leaving a rear defrost circuit on for longer than 10 minutes just for safety's sake. If we look at the Audi Q3, you're going to see in the same circuits, mirror defrost, left front heated seat, right front heated seat. These all have CAN, the word CAN in brackets. That means it's CAN bus control, which basically confirms what we saw in the iDataLink install documentation, that they control those features via data. So this wiring schematic confirms that. You can see here the rear defrost is a white violet. It's a negative latched, and it's located at the VESCM module above the driver kick. They actually even give you a picture here. So you're going to see that in this particular vehicle, the 2022 Audi Q3, they actually tell you where to go. And if you look, looks like it is a relatively low current wire. It could still be the output to the rear defrost. Based on the fact that it's latched, could mean that it's the actual driving output wire. But the fact that it's negative tells me it's probably a control circuit, so it's relatively lower current. You can see this would be a high current positive feed. 40 amps are going across this wire, or this wire is capable of supplying up to 40 amps. You can see the difference in gauge, in thickness between these wires. So again, you're going to want to know, is your rear defrost or heated seat or heated steering wheel wire on the control side, or is it on the actual output side driving the heated accessory? So that covers off kind of what you need to look for when you're looking to see whether your iDatastart system is covering these comfort features. It is a little bit complicated and complex, but I do give iDataLink a lot of support for really coming out and telling you in multiple areas whether it's covered or not. Could iDatastart do more when it comes to explaining what I'm explaining in this video? Yes, for sure. But this segment of the industry is very niche. Not most users of remote start are not connecting the heated accessories or cooled accessories. Most of them are just using the remote start product for the convenience of starting the engine. Now, I'm going to get a little bit more detailed in this video. And what I want to do next is I want to actually go through the actual master guide for a module such as the CMHCX Go or CMHCX G0, which is the latest controller from iDatastart now in 2025. And I will also go through similar info on the Compustar FT-DC3 and the Compustar FT-CMX. Now, full disclosure, there is an FT DC3X there is basically a new DC3. I don't have my data here in front of me for that, but it's essentially the Compustar version of the HCX Go. So let me zoom in on the HCX Go master guide, and I'm going to go down. Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, essentially, I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to tell you which wires would be applicable for using and controlling your heated accessories. So there are wires known as POCs, which are programmable output controls, okay? You'll see on this particular module, there are 4 of them. What does that mean? Well, that means that you can program the output characteristics of these 4 wires. So from default, POC4 is negative starter kill. POC3 is negative horn. POC2 is wrap shutdown, negative, and POC1 is second unlock. All of these are low current negative outputs that are programmable. What does that mean? That means that you could program all 4 of them to be a horn honk output, or you could program all 4 to be 4 individual outputs. Provided you don't need second unlock other doors, you could use this output, for example, as your rear defrost. And if you don't need wrap shutdown, then you could use this output for your heated seats. That's essentially the concept of a POC. It's totally programmable based on the parameters that they give you. There are also things known as programmable inputs, okay? So that would be, for example, TAN with silver dot, which is external alarm sensor. It doesn't say here that it's a PIC, but it is programmable. Also, these worn away trigger inputs, instant trigger inputs on the green connector are also programmable. Programmable means that you can change the characteristics of what that wire does, not only in how it outputs, whether it's momentary, latched, or timed, but also, again, with the timer, how long it's going to stay on or off for. So if I scroll down, there's going to be a lot for you to see here. Essentially, you can see the first thing, which is how the outputs are controlled. So that's where this stands for programmable timed output. Okay. Also can tell you what these auxiliaries are actually doing. You can program whether they're controlling rear glass, heated seats, cooled seats, panic, defrost. So this is how you program how you control the actual output, not how you connect the output, but how you control the output. Okay. And that's important because, the biggest thing is how do you connect the output, but how to use the output is very important because that's how you're going to be able to actually trigger your heated or cooled accessories. Now, I'm just going to go up here and I want to show. Okay. So we can see here option 23, defrost trigger. You can change. It only activates via the auxiliary button of a key fob. You can have it where it always turns on. You can have it trigger at a certain temperature, whether that's +5 or -5. That's degrees Celsius for my fellow Canadians. For my American customers, 41 degrees Fahrenheit or 43 degrees Fahrenheit. These temperatures are determined both by the onboard temperature sensor, but also by an external temperature sensor accessory, which is available for the HCX G0 module. You can see for the defrost control, as you may have heard earlier in the video, I was talking about time. You've got 1 second output, 5 minute, 10 minute, 15 minute. You have also got let's go to the cooled accessories section. Okay, heated accessory control, aux trigger, always on, -10, -5, 0, 4, 8. So, and then you've got cooled accessory, the same sort of thing, temperature related settings. So that's essentially settings that you would change on how you want or when you want the heated or cooled accessories to turn on. Now, the CM HCX G0, the CM HCX A0, these modules have very similar control settings. If you were to go to, for example, the Compustar CMX, this one's got even more POCs. You're going to see they have 8 POCs, programmable output controls, on the CMX, which makes it even more flexible for doing these sorts of installations. So, if heated and cooled accessories are very important to you, it may be pertinent for you to decide which controller, Compustar, iData, 410, etc., is going to have the most amount of outputs for what you want to do, because they're not all created equal, and there are lots of details that are very, very complex to figure out that are differences between them. Thankfully, here at Lockdown, we're actually building a comparison chart, which is going to hopefully make something that's very complicated much easier to understand. So you can see here, let's go to option 313. This is on an FTCMX controller. It's got defroster temperature control, standard, only below 32, and then programmable. You can program the variable temperatures, or you can have it controlled by aux1. Same thing for ventilation, air conditioning. You can have it basically control the cooled accessories above certain degrees. Now, Compustar being an American company, most of their temperature settings are going to be in Fahrenheit, but you can see that they also have Celsius ratings here as well. Now, this particular feature table may be out of date by recording of this video. They are always constantly updating these feature tables because the CMX is so controllable that they oftentimes update things like the programmable output controls and how they actually work. Let's keep going here. You can see you've got your aux1 output. You've got all these different output control settings, how you actually control them. You could even control the aux1s from a trigger of a programmable input, which is what PIC, programmable input circuit, or programmable input control. That's what I call it. So very, very highly customizable. Again, it can be quite daunting and confusing for the do-it-yourselfer to understand this, but this is what connecting heated and cooled accessories like rear defrost, heated seat, cooled seat, mirror defrost, etc. This is what this can entail if your heated and cooled accessories are not controlled via data. I also want to outlay that relays are required for many of these installations. So all of these outputs that these control modules have are all going to be low current negative. Many of these circuits in the vehicle are going to be high current positive. That means you need a relay to flip the polarity. And you need a relay because the relay is what's going to be able to handle that additional current draw. So if you were to try and hook up a low current output to a high current accessory, you're going to blow the control module if you're not using a relay that can handle that extra current. So I understand this can be very confusing. Hopefully this video helps to kind of allow you to understand more of what connecting heated and cooled accessories to a remote starter entails. It definitely is not always a do-it-yourself thing, and definitely will entail you to have the programming tools for these control modules specific to the one that you're using, as well as access to relays and access to detailed wiring schematic software for your vehicle. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, it goes a long way to help us make more videos like this in the future. And look forward to more videos like this. I will make more technical videos outlining a lot of these detailed technical things that most other channels and most other people don't cover, but they're important because these are actual usable features of the products that you're purchasing. Thank you very much. Have a great day.